Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're plunging into something really vital for pretty much any business out there. How they actually get set up to take payments.
Yeah, the nuts and bolts of getting paid.
Exactly. We've got a couple of interesting sources here. One's a presentation, Viva.com onboarding presentation, and the other's a PDF on merchant benefits, mostly in Greek, but focused on partner benefits.
Right.
Our goal today is to unpack what makes Viva.com call their onboarding next generation, and how it's supposed to change things for merchants.
It's a really interesting space because traditionally getting set up, it could be, well, a real slog. Days, maybe weeks, lots of forms.
Oh, tell me about it, paperwork mountain.
Exactly. So these documents suggest something quite different, a big shift.
Okay, let's dive in then. The first thing from that Viva.com presentation that just leaps out is this really bold claim. Minutes to onboard, seconds to start accepting payments.
Wow. And they even say a merchant can be ready in 5 minutes.
5 minutes, yeah. With just phone plus merchant ID. I mean, that sounds almost, well, a bit too good to be true, doesn't it? For something this critical.
It really does sound ambitious. And the key question is how? How do they pull that off?
Right.
Well, the material talks about this next generation onboarding process. Describes it as seamless and revolutionary.
Okay. Buzzwords, but what's behind them?
It seems to rely heavily on tech. They mention a state-of-the-art conversational user interface.
Like a chatbot.
Essentially, yeah. But powered by advanced bot technologies, AI, and crucially, automated collection from trusted registry sources.
Okay.
So it's not just about making the website slicker, it's fundamentally changing how the information is gathered. They claim this minimized the registration account activation time from days to minutes.
That's a huge difference.
Imagine being a small business owner, eager to start selling. Cutting out days or weeks of waiting, that's massive. It's not just convenience. It could be, actual revenue sooner.
Definitely. But, okay, if it's that quick, how do they make sure they get all the proper information? You can't cut corners on compliance and sincerity, surely.
Absolutely not. And the sources seem to address that directly. They state they collect all necessary data and documents automatically.
Automatically from where?
From key official registries. Things like business registries for the basics, company name, legal structure, address.
Standard stuff.
Yeah, but then also credit registries for more detail, credit info, directors, employee numbers, even share capital structure, and importantly, UBO registries.
UBO.
Ultimate beneficial owners. Basically, finding out who really owns and controls the company. That's super important for AML.
Anti-money laundering.
Right. Exactly. And they explicitly state the process is fully compliant with local AML rules. So the idea is automation enables speed while maintaining that regulatory rigor.
Okay, that makes sense. The tech does the heavy lifting on the checks.
Precisely.
But for you, the listener, thinking about this, what does this conversational user interface actually, feel like to use? The presentation gives a step-by-step.
Yeah, it walks through an example. It looks pretty streamlined.
So it starts with their chatbot asking for the legal name, like Viva Group. Simple enough?
Then you just select the company size. Maybe you're a large business. Click.
Next, you type in the activity industry. Let's say consulting.
The system then confirms the name, gives you an ID, something like Viva Group, 654-5887.
Okay. Then you put in your phone number, your email.
Standard contact info. Then it asks for the company website URL.
If you have one, presumably.
Right. And your expected annual turnover, maybe 120,000 euros.
And the last step in this initial bit is confirming if you're in contact with the legal representative.
Yes. And after that, which they tally as 6 inputs and 3 clicks.
That's it.
Seems so. The system creates what they term an enriched lead. And the customer is basically ready to sign up. It's designed to be incredibly lean.
That is quick for the initial phase. But what about the ID check, the verification part? Does that slow things down again?
That's a crucial step, isn't it? They seem to have thought about that too. They offer an ID verification on-the-spot option.
On the spot. So right there and then.
Yeah, assuming the legal representative is actually present with their ID.
Okay.
And the presentation claims that with 2 extra clicks and 1 ID scan, 92% of merchants are ready to start accepting payments.
92%? That's quite specific.
It is. It involves a simple OTP process, getting a code texted to your phone.
Standard security measure.
Yep. And then scanning the person's ID. The big takeaway here is they state 92% of the merchants onboarded will be activated without any interaction after this point.
Wow. So almost fully automated activation for most people.
That seems to be the goal. Minimal human intervention needed from their side.
So, okay, the merchant gets through this. They're verified. What happens next? What does being payments ready actually mean for them day to day?
Well, they get a welcome email, which sounds pretty positive. For those fully verified, it apparently says, your payment's ready. Time to start transacting. Pretty clear.
Nice and direct.
And it highlights some key benefits straight away, like no downtime, emphasizing that the service is always on, even if the merchant's internet connection drops.
Ah, offline payments. That's important.
Crucial for many businesses, yeah. It also nudges them to get a Viva.com debit card through the Viva.com app, suggesting this helps minimize your fees.
Interesting link there between their card and transaction fees. We should probably touch on that.
Definitely. And if the ID check was done on the spot, the email reassures them. No further identification needed. Done and dusted.
Okay, so the speed and the seamless setup are obviously the big headlines here. But what about other benefits? Looking at that second document, the one focused on partners and benefits.
Right, the UFLI AIM document. If we pull that into the picture, it highlights some potentially massive advantages, especially financially.
Like what?
Well, the absolute standout is the possibility of 0% transaction commission surcharge.
0%. Seriously.
That's what it says. Now, there are usually conditions attached to offers like that.
Sure. Tied to using your debit card, maybe?
Very likely linked to how you manage the funds within their ecosystem, like using their card for spending. But still, 0% commission. That's huge. For any business, that significantly impacts the bottom line.
Absolutely game-changing for some sectors.
Totally. Then there's real-time settlement. Money clears instantly. Huge for cash flow.
No more waiting days for funds.
Exactly. Plus, free outgoing transfers, the number varies depending on the pricing plan. They mention DCC, dynamic currency conversion.
Which lets international customers pay in their own currency.
Right, often good for conversion rates. And it mentions offline payments, again, reinforcing that no downtime promise.
It's just consistent.
It also mentions integrations, cash registers, and ERP AE. ERP is business management software. AAE is the Greek tax authority. So it suggests it plugs into the business's core systems.
Which is important for efficiency and, keeping the tax man happy.
Definitely. And things like shift management and tips handling, suggesting it's tailored for retail and hospitality, too. The pricing tiers mentioned, from a 0 plan up to standard, show they're aiming at different business sizes.
So putting it all together.
Yeah.
What's the big takeaway for, say, a business owner listening to this or just someone interested in fintech?
I think it means that historical pain point, that administrative hurdle of setting up payments, is being seriously challenged.
Yeah, that multi-day back and forth, the piles of documents.
It's being compressed dramatically through, well, smart tech, AI, automated data checks, slick interfaces. The aim seems to be making it almost trivially simple. A few clicks, a few bits of info.
From days of hassle to minutes of setup.
It really shows how tech isn't just accelerating old processes, it's fundamentally changing how businesses interact with critical financial services, moving from this cumbersome admin task to something closer to instant, compliant readiness.
It's quite a transformation.
A remarkable evolution, really.
And that's pretty much a wrap on this deep dive into what looks like genuinely revolutionary onboarding. We've seen how AI, smart data access, and a focus on user experience can turn that waiting game into almost instant activation.
It really does change the landscape for new businesses especially.
It definitely makes you wonder, though, if something as traditionally complex and regulated as merchant onboarding can be streamlined this much. What other legacy business processes are just waiting for a similar next-generation makeover? Where else could we see days turn into minutes?
That's a fascinating question. What's next? Accounting, legal setup, permitting.
Something to ponder. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.